The tourist area around Margaret River in WA is famous for its good wine and great surf. Wouldn't it be lovely to be in WA right now? But when writer, musician and reporter Sam Carmody started looking into his family background in the region, he stumbled on a little-known history of violence. What he found out has implications not just for his family, but in fact for the entire region, where his ancestors have a statue in their honour, a highway and even a town named after them. And a warning for our Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander listeners, this story contains the names of people who have died.
My great-great-great-grandfather was one of the early settlers in southwest WA. His name was John Garrett Bussell. One Christmas lunch a few years ago, my family was chatting about him, but my sister-in-law Holly had recently found out something troubling about that settler history, and she was burning to share it.
Yeah, so somebody posted on Facebook something about they thought they should change the name of Busselton because one of the Bussells had shot and killed an Aboriginal girl and was fined a shilling.
The social media post that Holly had seen said the girl who was shot was only 7 years old.
Yeah, pretty much everybody denied that it happened. I don't think anybody at the table really wanted to face up to the fact that he'd actually done something bad, as well as had this legacy that everyone was really proud of.
It seemed too shocking to be true. But later, when I investigated it, I discovered that it was true. A younger brother of my ancestor, Charles Bussell, did shoot and kill a child in 1842.
A 7-year-old girl had stolen some flour from the Bussells.
Dr Chris Owen is an historian from the University of Western Australia.
So Charles was trying to interrogate her and tried to scare her by pointing a musket, which he thought was unloaded, at her, and he kept pulling the trigger just to scare her into confessing. Then the musket went off and the bullet or the lead went through her stomach and the girl died.
I think everyone should look into the history of their own family.
Claire G. Coleman is a Noongar author who has explored Australia's history of settler violence.
Aboriginal people do it all the time. We look into our histories to try and find out what happened to us. And I don't think it's too much to expect that colonisers do the same thing, look into and make the effort to find out what's in their past. I don't think it should just be the job of Aboriginal people to unpack the past.
When I looked deeper into my family's past, I began to discover an even more disturbing picture, including evidence of another terrible act carried out by settlers in the southwest that involves my family.
In 1841, one of the most bloodthirsty deeds ever committed by Englishmen is reported to have taken place.
That's taken from an account compiled by American historian Warren Burt Kimberley, who visited Australia in the late 1800s.
Into the remote places this party went, bent on killing without mercy. Through the woods, among rocky hills and shaded valleys, they searched for the black men. When they saw them, they shouldered their muskets and shot them down.
The massacre my family took part in, it has a name. It's been referred to by some researchers as the Wonnerup Minninup Massacre. But even today, the story remains largely unknown.
Oh, most definitely. Most people have no idea.
Dr Chris Owen has researched the Wonnerup Massacre as part of the University of Newcastle-led Colonial Frontiers Massacre Map project.
And Aboriginal people know all about it. You just speak to any of the Noongar people and they know all about these stories.
Morning. How are you? Good. It's Saturday morning at the home of Wadundee elder Wayne Webb. On the table out back, Wayne has pulled out some books and photos.
These stories are not that old. It's not that long ago.
Wayne's son Zach tells me the oral history of what happened in 1841 after a settler was speared by a Wadundee elder named Gayware.
There was a whole bunch of old men and women and families camped around Minninup.
The story they tell is harrowing. The shooting of innocent Wadundee people, including children, as settlers hunted for Gayware.
And because they refused to tell the party where Garrel and his sons were, that they were considered as retribution as well. And they said that they were actually murdered or were shot and killed at the time.
There are other shocking details I'd never heard before.
They say that our grandfather was actually beheaded at the time in front of his two sons, and his head was smoked in a hollow log. This is what we've been told, is that that's what happened inside the forest. His head was then smoked, put in a barrel and put in Busselton as a deterrent for any other Aboriginal people wanting to create resistance or resilience against the colony.
Today, there is still no official recognition of what occurred in February of 1841. I call the president of the local shire where the massacre occurred, Michael Southwell. It turns out he has heard of the massacre.
And so that's probably the next item that should be on the agenda, is discussing what kind of memorial or remembrance would be appropriate so that the massacre isn't just left swept under the carpet.
I asked Claire G. Coleman how it could be that I hadn't heard of the Wonnerup massacre, and most other people hadn't either.
Really, if you think about it, the way to hide the massacres is to be in a country where the populace don't want to know about the massacres. Therefore, you could just put a sheet in front of them and no one will look behind it.
The Colonial Frontiers Massacre Map Project will soon release an update, including as many as 3 more massacre sites in WA's southwest. It feels like we're only at the very beginning. Most people in the southwest of WA haven't even heard these stories, let alone come to grips with them. And those that have always known these stories, well, they're patiently waiting for people like me to catch up.
You're both doing me a favour by sitting down and being willing to kind of fill in voids in my own story, you know.
And that's what it's about, I guess, because for us, it helps us heal in a way by having yourself come to us as a family. And we hope that that's exactly it, that it reconciles with yourself and it helps to heal yourself. It helps to fill in some of those knowledge gaps that may have been missed. And that's how we walk together.
You can hear that full extraordinary background briefing episode right here this Sunday at 8 a.m, or you can listen to it now wherever you get your podcasts from.